On Sunday, we learned that the UN appointed a representative of Saudi Arabia to lead a human rights panel. Let me repeat that. We learned over the weekend that the UN appointed a representative of Saudi Arabia to lead a human rights panel. Yeah. You know what's so sad about this? It's that people aren't wrong when they say the UN is broken. But we need the UN, or we need a body like the UN, in order to tackle many very big systemic problems that no individual nation can do on their own. And this is just like, a wink and a nod to everybody who's been saying for the longest time, the UN has become a joke. Now, don't get me wrong, I think there are plenty of reports that they do, and there's a lot of information that they have where it is productive and it is educational. But when you do something like this, you're going to have no defenders left, because this is a fucking joke, man. It's like a parody. SNL couldn't write something more ridiculous than this. So HuffPost UK reports, quote, the appointment of Faisal bin Hassan Trad was decried by Ensaf Haidar, wife of Raif Badawi, a Saudi blogger being held by the state, as well as a UN watchdog that said the decision proved that oil continues to trump basic human rights principles. Badawi was arrested in 2010 and in January received the first 50 of 1,000 lashes for apostasy. So here's the best part of the article. Quote, on Friday, Trad said that as an Islamic country, Saudi Arabia is committed to Sharia, which protects the rights of both the offenders and the victims. No. You're not allowed to use that as a response. Like, oh, we see that you're whipping somebody for apostasy, you're lashing somebody for apostasy. And he responds, no, it's okay, we believe in Sharia. Yeah, that's the fucking problem. That's why it's absurd that you run a human rights panel. Guys, understand, it's not just this either. I mean, I actually find it kind of funny that they're only using the case of Raif Badawi here to say this is ridiculous. They've beheaded over 100 people just this year, and they're beheading them mostly for drug crimes. People are beheaded for drug smuggling, witchcraft, sorcery, atheism, apostasy. You go down the list. It's bad enough if you behead anybody for any reason, but they're doing it for shit like atheism. If you, a lot of the people who are in my audience, or me, were in that region, they would have to behead me, duct tape my fucking neck back to my body, and behead me 913 times over for all of the laws and rules that I've broken. No, see, the problem is, they think they are upholding morality, but in reality, they're the most immoral regime imaginable. Just because you have a sheet of paper, just because you have a religious doctrine, whether it be the Hadith or the Quran, to back you up for doing X, Y, and Z, doesn't mean it's right. In fact, it is quite clearly wrong for anybody that has any kind of moral compass that resembles something that really makes sense, like the idea of treat others as you would like to be treated, more or less. So this is one of the most immoral regimes being rewarded for their immorality, in essence. I mean, if you had to pick a single government around the world which had policies that were closest in line with ISIS, it would be this government. And understand, that's not just my opinion, it's admitted. They say we are a Wahhabi regime. And ISIS believes in that version of Islam as well. The most extremist, ultra-conservative version of Islam. You can't take ultra-far-right theocratic conservatives and say they are the standard bearer for human rights, lest you make a mockery of your own institution. And that's exactly what you're doing here. Now, understand, some people would fire back and say, well, come on, but it's also ridiculous to have the U.S. lead some sort of human rights panel when we just had the CIA torture report come out. We invade countries that didn't attack us all the time. We've killed so many civilians over the past 10 years with our interventions that were unnecessary. I agree with all that. I wouldn't make the U.S. the head of a human rights panel, but I certainly wouldn't make Saudi Arabia the head of a human rights panel. I would take a country that's been better on these issues. Call me crazy. Sweden, what's up, dog? What are you doing? You want to head the human rights panel? I'd have no problem with that. I'm sure you can nitpick anybody's record in any nation, but let's face it, some nations just are better in different areas than other nations. So this is ridiculous. This is over-the-top stupidity to the point where it's like embarrassing. I almost feel bad for the UN for even doing this because everybody's laughing at you now, right on the political spectrum, left on the political spectrum. You picked quite possibly the single most immoral government to be the leaders of a human rights panel. I mean, it goes without saying at this point, right? I can't take any fucking thing that comes out of this panel seriously. What a joke this is. If you're so concerned about immorality, Saudi Arabia, very simply, let me lay it out for you here. Women should get 100% equal rights to men. End of conversation. And you know what else? You're done with beheadings. You're done. Now, of course, I'm in favor of getting rid of the death penalty completely, but I'll be kind to you. You can keep the death penalty. Just no more fucking beheading people, and especially no more beheading people for things that aren't fucking crimes to any rational person in any rational system. Like, hey, differences of opinion. You know, I don't believe Muhammad was the prophet. Kill him. Kill him. No, see, that's what we call a difference of opinion. It is not just a different moral system to say we disagree with that and we don't kill people when they disagree with us. It is a better moral system. And this is what we mean when we say liberal values are actually preferable. Now, that doesn't mean that you can then use illiberal tactics to implement your liberal values, because then that's a contradiction, and you've become the bad guy if you try to use force and you kill civilians and do bad things in order to try to get liberal values. The ends do not justify the means. But with that being said, it is true, liberal values are by and large better. They are superior. It is a system that more coincides with any reasonable understanding of morality. So, Saudi Arabia leading this panel? Fuck off.